Hello, this is Kurt Hake, and this video is my third and final progress video for the final app that I'm creating. Here are the upgrades that I've made since the last video. I finished implementing the game rules and logic, which is obviously the most important part of the app to get right. So I've spent a lot of that checking it, testing it, making sure everything's working as intended. I also fixed the hand so that every card always fits inside the screen. If you remember, one card would get cut off by the screen edge if there were too many cards in the hand. So I fixed that. I also added music and sound effects and adjusted some styles and created the app icon. I decided to change the navigation type from stack to switch, kind of late on in the process, and I did this for multiple reasons. For one, there was some inconsistent behavior when I was passing parameters to routes when I was jumping to screens that had already been visited. But another reason is that I wanted to disable the Android back button, the one that's like actually on the device itself, and this was the easiest way to do it. The only drawback is that I actually had wanted a header and back button on a couple of the screens, so I had to create one manually for those, but I'm actually glad I did because now the header is unique and not just the standard like stock format. No more unique. I also added an alert that warns users if they try to start the game before picking a suit. Before it would just do nothing, like the button wouldn't do anything if you hadn't selected a suit yet. So now, with this change, users won't think that the start button is broken or something. I also decided to add next to screen. It's very simple. It's mostly just text. I just added a rules screen to explain the basic rules that can be accessed from the home screen. But it doesn't pop up every time. It's just you can reference it if you need to brush up. And I also added some hint buttons that use alerts to pop up some simple hints. Those can be accessed with little question mark buttons that are in the header that I created. So anyway, the app is actually basically done. All I plan to do now is some extra testing and then maybe like add a unique font or something. Just a bit of polishing style-wise and like I said, more testing to make sure everything is working as it appears to be. Alright, so now I'll show you that nearly finished product in action. Let's see. Here it is. So yeah, this is the main screen with the 4 different options. I'll show you here the basic rules. This is also an example of the header. The pages that have headers, there's a home button that takes you back to the home screen, question mark button that pops up a hint, like I'll show you here. And this is a pretty basic one. Most of the other hints are longer and more helpful. This is just an example. Anyway, I'll go back to the home page now, and what I plan to do, obviously I can't show you every last minutia of everything I added, so I'm actually just going to play through a level and you can see the game and how it's working. I think I'll just select a level from the list. Here, I'll do this one. This is one of the harder levels, so I might not actually win. We shall see. Pick, sure, modern suit. Let's see, who did not get a very good hand. Yep, and this is already not going very well. Anyway, you'll see some various things here. The rumor weed up in the top right corner won the first hand. So now she gets to start with whatever card from her hand that she wants. You'll notice on the right it says the lead color is purple. That's because the card that she led with is purple. And the trump color is green. That's because Rumor Weed is a green character. And so far the enemy score is 1 because one of the cards that the Rumor Weed won in that first hand had one of the symbols on it. I don't remember which one it was, either a flower or a penguin. Anyway, you may be kind of lost if you don't know what's going on, but I'm not going to explain every last rule in the game. But anyway, what has to happen here is because the lead color is purple, it won't do anything if I try to play a card other than purple because I have a purple card in my hand. But if I press purple, it'll actually let me play it. And that was actually the highest purple card, so I won. So now I can play whatever I want. Play this, and hopefully no one plays a higher green card. Oh, no, someone didn't. The numbers range from 1 to 9. Okay, so here I'm going to have to play my green card. But something that's interesting is, because remember we didn't have any green cards, she could play a red card, which was the trump color, so she stole the hand. One thing to mention, if you don't realize, is my 3 opponents are actually all on the same team. That's part of what makes the game so hard. Yeah, and this is not going well. Yeah, this is going to be ugly. Alright. Yeah, this... Yeah, I just started behind and finished behind. Well... Ouch! Yep, that sums it up. Ouch. Alright, so then this is the results screen. Since I lost, there isn't a next level button. Instead, it's a restart level. Like, I can try it again. If I retried it, hopefully I'd get a better hand that time. A bit more luck. Anyway, that's the basics of the app. There's a bunch of different levels in it that have preset combinations of enemies and music and things like that that progress through a story with levels that get progressively harder. And then there's also an option back on the main screen for a random match. So if you choose a random match, all the things like the music and the enemies are randomly generated for you, like this. So this is a random combination of enemies and one of the random music pieces in the game. Anyway, I can't spend more time on this. Obviously, this video is already getting long, and I need to show you some code, so I will do that now. Okay. So I'll just highlight a few things. Obviously, a big important thing is the game code itself, which is in this file here. I think there's something like 16 or 17 functions that I have in here that generally what just happens is they call each other in different combinations based on what the game state is whenever you try to play a card. In fact, I think I'll just show you the card press function as an example. So basically what happens is, if it's not your turn, when you press a card, if it's not your turn, it does nothing. If you try to play a card that you're not allowed to play, which is like, for example, say if the lead color is yellow and you have a yellow card in your hand and then you try to play another color, then it won't do anything. But then if it is a legal play, then it'll call different functions based on like who's leading, like what kind of round it was. So like for example, if it was your turn to go first, then basically it'll start the round because you're playing the first card. If it was the first enemy, then that means that all 3 enemies have already played a card, so it just goes ahead and resolves the pot, just figuring out who won the hand. And if it started with something else, then it does calls the functions that it needs to make sure that all of the enemy players play a legal card, and all of that works correctly. So yeah, so at the end of the round, basically what happens is, at the end, when each player has played a card, this resolve pot thing is eventually called, and what happens is it compares the 4 cards, and if a card is in there that was from the trump color, then it's worth its. I basically just made it so that it's worth its value plus 9. That's basically just a way of saying a trump color beats the lead color. Then obviously the lead color uses its own value, and then anything else is just value 0. And the reason that I could just do that is because there's always going to be a lead color card in there. So if you play a card that isn't a lead color or a trump color, it's impossible for you to win. So I just left the value at 0. Anyway, and depending on who wins it, it'll either play like a little victory sound if you win the hand. Otherwise, it'll play like a little sad losing sound. It'll reset all of the cards, make sure that the board looks correct. It'll check to see if the game's over, like if the cards, like if your hand is empty. And if your hand isn't empty, it's not saying that the game is over. It'll start a new round. Oh, and one thing that I forgot to mention, that it updates the winner's score. So if you win, it adds points based on if the symbols on the cards are symbols that your character wants and is looking for, you get points for that. If one of your enemies does, and they take cards that have their symbols on them, then the points go to the enemy team. And then what happens in the end, once the game is over, if you have at least as many points as your opponents, then you win. Basically, you get to win ties, which is part of the balancing factor. Part of the balancing factor with the fact that you have 3 enemies is, for one, in theory, you're smarter than the computer, and you have more symbols on your character, you get to go first, and yeah, you win the ties. So there's, it balances out. Anyway, I guess I could also show you a couple other things. The way that I have this playing sounds set up. To play music, I have the app pass in the index number of the desired file path, like in the array of songs. But the voice clips, actually those sound effects, work a little differently. When a positive sound effect is desired, the clip is selected at random from the 4 different options, and the same idea with a sound that is a negative sound effect. Yeah, so there's 4 possibilities for each, so several different ones are heard each game. Yeah. And then also worth mentioning, I guess, is the header I created. It was actually a pretty simple design. The header that I had created after I switched to navigation type. It just has the title centered with a button on either side, and these buttons, of course, display that home and the question mark icons as images. And anyway, this video is already super long, so I'll call it here. Thanks for watching.